Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. This is sort of kind of a Good Friday edition because it's when we're recording it. But as you all know, I get the pleasure of sometimes recording early and then airing them a little bit later. But I say Good Friday not only because I get to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus in a couple of days, but mainly because every day that we have an opportunity to be here on this earth is a good day. Earlier this week, I was minding my business going for a run, and I saw a lady laying out in the street. And I couldn't leave because I was like, what if she doesn't have any family? She was hit by a car. And it made me think about how often we rush to do everything, or, we are in such a rush, we're texting and driving. And so this is a public service announcement to whoever's listening. Slow down. Whatever you got to get to, it is not going anywhere if it's for you. 2, and this is a message for me too, we gotta stop texting and driving distracted. If they need you, they can wait. It's not worth 2 lives being completely destroyed because of a quick text messaging, or not looking before you cross the street, or thinking, well, the light is green on their side, but it's red on mine. I can just scoot across. No. And I say that because even when we're out traveling and riding our bikes, there's those split seconds where we might not have looked, or we looked down and turned the other way and we miss something. So I just want to keep you all safe so that we can always have good days. But really take your time no matter where you go. And whatever on the other side is going to be meant for you if it's for you. Now, talking about a couple of Good Fridays ago, cherry blossom season, as we talked about last week with Mary, is a big time in Washington, D.C. And it is a time where no matter what may be going on in the city, it's a high point for everyone because people are happy. It's like spring is coming. We're getting warmer weather. And I actually did cherry blossom this year and was picking up my bib. I was doing some volunteer work first, but then picked up my bib a little early. And I asked a young lady to take a picture of me. I was like, can you take a picture of me? And she was like hitting all the angles. I was like, yes, thank you so much. And then she was admiring a shirt that I had on. I was there volunteering with Barlow as they were setting up what is that area called? It's the expo. Yeah, setting up in the expo area. And she was like, oh, do you work with Barlow? I said, no, but I'm on Team Barlow. And we started a conversation and she was telling me how she's a triathlete. And then this gentleman comes up and it's like, you're kind of butting in our conversation, sir, but whatever. I didn't know they knew each other at first because I was like, he's all in our conversation. We're talking about triathlons. He's inserting himself and he was making some comments and it was really cool. And then I found out, oh, they're dating. So I was like, we should all keep in contact. So we exchanged information. And that's how I found out they were dating. And it was really cool. But something happened in our conversation. And I said, OMG. We have to talk about this. Will you be on my podcast? And I cannot wait to get to this conversation. I won't spoil the goods. You got to listen. But I get to welcome Melissa and Shane to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. Melissa and Shane, welcome. How y'all doing?
Welcome.
Great.
Good to be here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Oh, of course. We've been making it work. Shane already had his first try last year. Well, not last year, last week with Rumpus and Bumpus. So he's gotten his try off the ground. We all did cherry blossom. It was a beautiful weekend. And yeah, I'm just excited to hear more about your story, how you all met, some things that were said. Yes, I'm looking at you, Shane. But we'll get after that. Let's talk about the journey because you guys were volunteering. And I think it's so cool that
Yeah.
we as athletes give back in some form because the sport gives so much to us. So, what I want to start with is talking about your volunteerism and how you gave back or give back to sport. So, whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Well, I think I probably started volunteering first and got Shane into it. Um, because I think when I really started heavily getting into it was when I had to drop out of some of my races, and I was like, well, I'm going to go volunteer because I want to be there and I want to feel it and I want to, be with the people who I would have been with. And so I started volunteering at the triathlon races, and then I started volunteering at the running races too that I was doing, like Marine Corps marathon races, the cherry blossom races. And so now we have a pretty healthy uh, roster of races that we volunteer for as well as race at. So, like, if I'm going to go do an Ironman or a half Ironman or whatever, where there's multiple days involved, I usually volunteer on a packet pickup or something like that before um, the race, so that I'll get to volunteer and race. Um, and then Shane does a lot of volunteering. Shane, you go ahead and tell him your experience.
Um, I mean, volunteering's always been a part of my mantra. Even when I was a kid, it was an excuse to get out of the house and go do something fun. Um, so yeah, I started out volunteering kind of in the nerd world, right? So science museums and maker fair and stuff like that. And I'd volunteered at a couple running events. But yeah, really the triathlon stuff didn't start until Melissa was like, "Hey, if you volunteer, they'll give you a shirt and you can ride the bus to the swim start with me. You can be my emotional sock puppet and almost, I can keep her grounded while she's thinking about here comes that open water swim." So it was, and it's a great way to get to know the community. It's you get to know some of the people that are working their butts off to make all this come together for this 4 or 17 hour journey that we go through. Um, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about both sides of that. No, and getting to know both sides of that. It's a bigger world than we think of. So volunteering is an important part of being a successful athlete, I think.
Yeah, and him being behind the race lines, helping me has just been it's been a tremendous help on a lot of these, especially my full Ironman races that he's volunteered at. But yeah, being able to be there behind the lines when I'm getting it in the water is like a big deal for me. I struggle with open water swims still, and so I really appreciated him doing that.
So, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Shane and Melissa, about Shane being able to be your emotional support because I learned this year that volunteering is the cheat code to being everywhere on the Ironman
Yeah.
course if you need to be on the Ironman course.
Yes,
It's the cheat
absolutely.
code. So let me
That's
tell
only the
you,
past to
if
get
you
you in
got
trouble.
athletes racing and you need to be where you need to be for them athletes, get that t-shirt, which means give your time because that's technically payment. Like pay me
It's a
in
trade.
this opportunity to have access to my athlete. And that swim start is really where it's at. I
Yeah.
Some friends of mine introduced me to, well, we introduced ourselves. We were like, hey, we're not doing anything. Let's give back at Ironman Maryland this past year. And we got to do the swim table with athletes who wear glasses like myself and need their
Special
asthma
needs.
pumps or their diabetic like pump and tickers. And that was so fulfilling to be able to allow people to be able to see. And then we were like, oh, you mean to tell me we can go other places? And we had access to the finish line and being able to welcome in our athletes. But it was really cool. And I think volunteering for my first full, and I'm going to ask you, Shane and Melissa, about the shorter races are impactful for sure, and that
Yeah.
volunteerism is needed because smaller races don't really have as much support.
Right.
But volunteering for my first full was transformative because we actually volunteered all day. We did the morning and then we came back and did different shifts in the afternoon. And I realized sometimes volunteers don't show up, which
Yeah.
causes even more challenge and puts more pressures on the volunteers that are there. So tell us about your experience volunteering for the longer races and how it's truly transformed your mindset as an athlete.
I volunteered for Ironman Arizona because back when I did Ironman Arizona, that was one of the ways you could guarantee an entry. And this was when the race would sell out. Like, you were so lucky if you could get an entry. Um, this was before COVID. And so we went out there to support friends who were competing, but also to volunteering. I did like you. I volunteered all day long. And volunteering it's hard. It is not easy. It is a long day. And then you are out there tracking your athletes. When I was done with my shifts, I did a morning shift, afternoon shift, and you're still out there tracking your athletes and cheering them on. It is it is really exhausting. And it is a very long day too. So those volunteers work so hard. They work so hard. Um, and I know Shane worked really, really hard when he volunteered too. Um,
I feel that deeply. I just think I just had a flashback. Like my body needed recovery the next day from volunteering. And I think people don't realize like you are really working. And if you're training in a training block and volunteering, you really have to protect yourself out there, still hydrate, fuel. Like it's volunteers need an Ironman medal.
they do. They really do. I think we should
That would
start
be
that.
cool.
I think we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to start
I think
that.
they do because they're walking, you get hot, you have to, like you said, you have to hydrate, you need to eat. You're like, yelling out water, Gatorade, whatever, all day
Yes.
long. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. And then you
It's,
go from that shift to another one somewhere. And
yeah.
I think they do. I think we should start a medal for volunteers.
Right. You are let me see, what is it? You are an iron volunteer because my goodness, it is truly a long day. So shout out to the three of us who are iron volunteers that we coined right here on Try Beginner's Luck podcast. Bam.
Yeah.
There it
Well,
is.
I know Shane has some crazy stories too, volunteering.
Oh, do tell, Shane.
Oh yeah. My favorite reward is the athlete that acknowledges and says, hey, takes the time out of their transition or whatever and says, thank you for volunteering. That is that's part of the medal. But yeah, I agree. I think I'm with you guys that they need a ribbon or a medal or I think Melissa would go for the crown if they gave her a crown. A little tiara or something.
Thank you does go a long way, Shane. And when people say thank you, and even when we're out there racing and we tell people thank you and you see their faces light up, it does go a long way. So be sure to thank your volunteers and sometimes we could be in our own heads and having a bad day, but really, again, what did I say earlier? Slow down, take a
Yeah.
moment. It does
Especially
not take
the
but a
long
split second,
races,
especially say thank
Yeah.
you.
especially when you're in your deep dark place and you're like, I think I'm gonna call it. And you got 5 more miles and there's volunteers standing there saying, you got this, or keep going, or you're almost there. I think people don't see that. I mean, I get it. When you're in a dark place, you're like, screw all that. I'm just struggling here. Um, but that doesn't mean that later on you can't say thank you or
Yeah.
um, be grateful.
It's always amazing to me how the volunteers at the end, when I am like between the 20 and 26 miles on the run, and they still have energy. They're still working hard. And it is like, you know, 10:30 at night and they're still going. And it's really amazing to me how much they really try to not only do that work, but also be so inspiring, keep us going, be like, you got it, you got this, keep going. Yeah, our volunteers are awesome. We used to have like those bracelets. Do you remember? They were like, I used to wear like stacks of those white bracelets.
Hmm.
They used to give us those little rubber white bracelets to hand out to volunteers.
Give
And
the athletes
that was sort of such a fun thing because then like they would get so excited when they would get a bracelet from an athlete. And I don't know why they stopped that because it was such a fun thing. They would have like a contest at the end or whatever to see who had the most or bracelets or something. Do you remember that? That was I don't know why they stopped doing that.
Me either, but maybe they'll bring it back. I mean, because the volunteers really, they make the events happen. I mean, the race directors and those who are the organizers and operations behind the scene, they're doing the logistics, but to make the race come to life, it's truly the volunteers. And so just shout out to anyone who's volunteered for a race, whether it's a 5K or an Ironman
Yeah.
and anything in between. We thank you, we salute you, and we're going to figure out something to see how we can
We got to figure it out, man. Whether we just like buy our own bracelets, say thank you
something.
on them, pass those, like as
Yeah.
you're on
but
the
at the
court.
one at the was it Maryland that you got like five Starbucks and Amazon and whatever
Yeah, I
cards
do
that
that
would just
too.
say thank you on them.
I give yeah, sometimes in the well, I love being in the transition tent because you get to spend so much time with each athlete and really help them um, and have more of like a one-on-one with each athlete in the transition tent. And I do this too. I do like $5 gift cards or whatever. Cause I mean, that's when a moment when you're like, you have more time with one person and you can give them, I just stick it in my transition bag and then just give it to the whoever's helping me. Um, so that's something that I think people really appreciate too.
So you're saying that the athletes
Mhm.
give little gift cards. I've
Yeah.
heard of that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening, and that's a good
So I've been on
treat
the
to.
giving and receiving end of that. So like I've given the cards in the transition tent and also received them from athletes when I'm volunteering.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So we volunteered and we took care of that because I think that is really an important part of this sport. No matter where you are, just giving up your time, especially when the sport is giving so much back to you.
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in sport?
You want to start with me or you want to start with Shane?
Either one of you. Who's been doing the sport longest?
I think I have been doing the sport the longest, I
Well,
think.
we'll start with the OG. Let's go, Melissa.
I started, okay, so my first I've always been an athlete my whole life. My first athletic pursuit was ballet, and I was looking for something else that it was very hard for me to find something that was as fulfilling as that. Um, and I got into running first, and I was like, this is nice, but it's not. I'm not very good at it, first of all, and it wasn't enough. I just wasn't getting enough of the feels. And then somebody at work introduced me into triathlon, and I was like, okay, I'll try that. But I had struggled with open water, so I started with sprint triathlons that were in a pool, and that's I had to get in there little by little. So and then I had to then I tried a sprint triathlon in open water, and like I said, open water is still something that I struggle with even now. But I still do it. Still make myself go out there and do it because I don't know. I think if there's a sport that like gives you that feeling of being alive, I think this is it. You run through the whole gamut of human emotions and experiences over that race time. Especially for me in the longer endurance races. So I've come to love it, even though there are parts of it that I really still struggle with.
So when Melissa was talking, I highlighted her to see the beautiful artwork in the back to showcase like the ballerinas.
Yeah.
So if you're looking or listening to this, jump on over to YouTube so you can see that. But so many people, Melissa, have that same fear. And I love how you took it little by little
Mhm.
and did the pool triathlons and then kind of increased incrementally up.
Mhm.
And you've been doing the sport for 20 years. That's a long time to be doing the sport and still have this very joyful expression of how you still love to get out there and try. And I think that's admirable. Shane, tell us about your entry into sport.
I just want one comment on Melissa, about her intro there was, and this is something that'll lead into our topic a little later on, is when I hear somebody say, I danced as an athlete, I think dance is not an athletic. The mindset is that sometimes is that dance is not an athletic sport, but they probably spend more hours training and working out than your average athlete. So that was just an observation. Um,
Thank you for pointing that out because I almost did, but I was like, no, what? I'm not. Because to your point, anything that uses your body is a sport. It may not be highly visible as a sport, and it may be ballet is more feminine, but it is a sport.
Well,
graceful.
it's an art. It's a fine art, but
Mhm.
you're definitely an athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Those folks are so highly trained athletes. They're
Mhm.
really incredible. So it's not considered a sport, it's considered a fine art, but you are definitely an athlete. Yeah.
But and the other part of this, the point I was trying to make is we have these preconceived notions, right? We see something, we think dance, that's not athletic. Running and football and soccer are. So I'm just gonna leave that there. A friend of mine talked me into, so I was doing some marathons and half marathons in the early 2000s. A friend of mine talked me into signing up for the Captex Tri in Austin, Texas in 2005. Um, I didn't do spectacular, but it was interesting enough that I wanted to do more. Then I got married and had kids. So that immediately kicked all that stuff to the back seat. Um, so now the kids are older. The marriage didn't work out. We're both good people. It's just not the right, wasn't the right place. Um, so yeah, so really my first triathlon coming back around was the Westfields Triathlon. And that was what, 2022? It was right after we started dating, right? I remember Lisa was there and a couple other people.
22, 23, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was the I struggled with swimming too. Yeah. And so some things have changed and I'm work in progress, and I'd like to give Melissa a shout out and some credit for um encouraging me to develop good habits and get rid of the bad habits. There's so many things that block us from uh focusing and being driven, being connected with ourselves, you know. I've always been pretty aware of my body, but I'm not always aware of what I'm doing to it or for it. So
Wow, that's interesting. So you had almost an 18-ish year span from your first try to your second first try in
Yeah.
Westfield. And I love what you said about you were aware of what you were doing with your body, but not aware of what you were doing to your body. Just saying, I resonate with that deeply. But I want to talk about those first races. So you had two different first time races, Shane. Melissa, you had one back 20 years ago. Tell us about your very first race.
Oh man, it's gonna be it's a little bit of a digging deep here to remember. Um, I do. So I remember going in and thinking, I'm just gonna see what happens. I'm just gonna try. Um, I had I did not look like a triathlete at all. I mean, in like what I was wearing. I do think that people who are just starting out don't need to worry about all that gear and stuff and all the fancy whatever that people who've been in the sport a long time have accumulated it. I borrowed my mom's bike that had like platform pedals. I'm assuming most of the people who are listening to this are going to understand the difference between platform and clip pedals. But you can't wear like the clip-in shoes. I wore tennis shoes.
Mm.
So like I'm just out there. You know, I did the pool swim. I love swimming, so swimming in a pool is my jam. I love it. So I didn't have any problem with that. And then I got on my 20-year-old Trek 400 steel ancient bike that my mom drug out of the garage for me to have. And I got out on the course and did that and the great thing was that T2 wasn't too long because I didn't have to change my shoes. So, because I already had tennis shoes on. And then I went out and did the run. And I remember feeling like, wow, I did it. This is great. Okay, this is the beginning.
That feeling that,
Yeah.
yes, I did it.
This
Shane,
is,
tell us
this
about
is
your
a good
first or your second first.
yeah.
Yeah. First, my buddy Steve. So I'd been running and cycling out there in Austin, Texas. I did the Motorola Marathon a couple times, and I became the Austin Marathon, I think. So I knew how to do that stuff, and I had a bike, and I was just swimming away from triathlon, and Steve was like, "Hey, why don't you try this thing?" I breaststroked the 750 meters and was so tired after that. I just wanted to lay there. Um, I just want to, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Can somebody else pick this up? I didn't know about relays at the time, but um, so yeah, I finished. I was exhausted, and Steve talked to me. He was like, how'd it go? He's like, just take it easy on your first triathlon. And I've heard that Melissa told me that before I did Westfield. So like, just remember to enjoy the journey. You're not gonna set a PR because you don't have a base run anyway, base run through these three sports. So might as well take your time, enjoy the journey, smell the flowers, look at everything, observe everything. Don't worry about time. You're gonna finish. Um, so the second time, I still didn't know how to swim correctly. I knew how to do a front crawl, but it wasn't like a freestyle. It was a bastardized freestyle. Because I had zero technique. I had zero knowledge. My experience with swimming was going surfing in Florida. And you get knocked off your board, you got to swim. So that was about the extent of my swimming experience and knowledge. Um, so again, I was tired after the swim. I did some backstroke about half of the way. That was something that Melissa was like, hey, when you run out of energy, just flip over on your back, do the backstroke, it'll be okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've never struggled with the bike or run too much, so those were somewhat native. Um, but yeah, that first swim, and it's good to find a pool swim for your first triathlon because they're only gonna run you for 300 or 400 meters instead of the 750. Um, which makes it a little more forgiving. I think one of my favorite beginner triathlons right now is the Loco Tri, and then they just opened registration. So that's out in Loudoun County at the uh, was it the Broadfields Community Center?
This is
So
not
that's a
promoting
great,
other races, Mr. Shane. This is about your first race.
yeah, yeah. Okay, focus. So yeah, it was a struggle.
Okay,
The swim was a struggle.
awesome. Well, your first race was a struggle, which sometimes it may be for those of you who haven't started your first race, but it also can be a joyful one, kind of like Melissa. You get out there with what you have and you just try. Now, since then, both of you have gone on to do incredible things in the journey. But now I want to go back because Melissa, you mentioned this in your first when you were talking about your first time about you didn't look like a triathlete. Um, excuse
Yeah.
me, when you were
I meant like,
trying.
yeah, I meant like I didn't have a tri suit on. I didn't have a swim skin. I didn't have any of the fancy. Yeah.
No, I knew what you meant,
Yeah.
but I'm going somewhere with this.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No problem. I'm going to uh it brings me back to the conversation that we had at the expo. And Shane hit on this a little bit earlier with talking about ballerinas not being athletes. And so, Shane, I'm going to get you to do the honors
Okay.
on what you said because I think I'm not going to do you any justice. And I may
I,
interject here and there, but speak
yeah,
loud so the people in the back can hear.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is important, right? So, and I need to kind of tell it in a maybe a chronological order or kind of build it a little bit, right? So, we, Melissa and I started dating 2022. Our first date, um, we met over at one of the parks. We went for a walk. Um, it was chilly out, so Melissa was wearing a jacket, I was wearing jackets, and um, we're walking in the park, and like, I'm thinking this girl is really cute. She's nice. She seems intelligent. I'm enjoying this. Um, and so we're kind of wrapping up our walk, and I see that, and she's been telling me about some Ironman stuff and triathlon stuff, and some of her interests, right? We're kind of, we're touching on some of that stuff. And so we're getting ready to wrap up the walk, and she's got an Ironman jacket on, and I'm like, okay, so she likes hanging out with Ironman thing, and it's a finisher jacket, and I'm thinking, well, how nice, somebody gave her a finisher jacket. And I'm like, I'm assuming some things, right? I don't have a lot of information. I'm drawing some conclusions, trying to be trying to keep it real. Um, and so, we couple more dates pass. Maybe how long would you say, Melissa? Was it like 6 months or something before I said, that first time?
I think it was less than that. It came
Was
up.
it 3 months?
Yeah.
So somewhere in about the 3 month range, I'm like, because now I'm getting to know our athlete here, and at first when she said she's a triathlete, I'm thinking, okay, sure. If I mean, I've seen, yeah, I'm like, but you're not really, you don't have an athlete's body, so how can you my brain's trying to process all of this. Um, I'm like, you didn't do an Ironman. I'm thinking in my head. So after 3 months, I'm like, she'd obviously, by then I found out, that, or, discovered, however you want to look at that, that she has not only done one Ironman, but she's done a few, and she's actually kind of a badass. And that was not the image I had in my head that first time we met. And until I got to know her a little better, I'm like, I'm thinking she's like a weekend warrior kind of thing. Like I just wanted to do it to, like the guys that do one Ironman and get the tattoo on their calf and they think they're the king now. I mean, I don't mean to diminish the tattoo or anything, but doing one Ironman is a lot. But I don't know if a tattoo is representative of a lifestyle that I see in so many other people that have done multiple, like Melissa. And yeah, yeah. So I think the moral of the story is I assumed there when I saw that jacket, that finisher jacket, my brain immediately went to there's no freaking way she is an Iron Man.
Now,
I think that's where I should leave it right there.
this is not bashing Shane. We're just using Shane as an object lesson here, okay?
Yeah.
Putting that out
Right.
there before we get started. So imagine me hearing this at the Cherry Blossom Expo. I
Cherry
was like,
blossom
what
or
the heck?
story.
Like, like I'm taking up for Melissa because again, I don't know that they know each other. I'm under the
At this point,
impression,
right?
by my limited information, that this person is coming up here talking about some, yeah, and I didn't think she was an Iron Man, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, who the hell? Like,
I almost
I
got
was
shoot.
having a
I loved
moment
watching your forehead just like crinkle up and because you were looking at him going, what?
I was getting ready to duck out of the way. I knew something was going to get thrown at me.
because I'm like, as a person, myself, full figure, woman, plus size, who's done the distance, who also announces now, and the look part of it is a real thing. I don't look the part. And then when I heard the body image thing, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. What does an Iron Man look like? Or what does a triathlete look like? And so I went through all of my situations
Eh,
and wanted to literally like give you a blessing of words in a way that was constructed that would make you feel so amazing about yourself that you would run out of that room. you know, but I appreciated that because I think you were vulnerable enough to share and we had a conversation about it. And it's true. So many people have this perspective.
Yeah.
So many people have this perspective and it's unfair to assume and it's unfair to make these judgments, but it happens. And so now that you know this, Melissa, you're 3 days in, excuse me, 3 months in dating this gentleman. What say ye?
Oh, I just totally blew it off. I'm like, whatever, dude. This is not going to affect me. I've been dealing with this all my life. I mean, I don't have the classic ballerina body. I mean, this has been something I've been dealing with my whole life. I'm very athletic, but I don't have the look. So it's amazing to me that I managed to choose these athletic pursuits that while I can be good at them, like I was very good at ballet. I was professional at one point, but I didn't have the super long legs with the short torso and the very long arms. I just don't have that construction and I'm curvier, my muscles are bulkier, I look more like a gymnast probably. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it shouldn't stop people from doing what they love.
Amen. And what is the look? To your
It's
point,
it's everybody.
it's
I think
exactly.
it's everybody.
And it also made me think, because I've modeled professionally, and people are like, you model? Like, look, yes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a real thing. Like the assumptions that we make. And it sent me through it was a trauma response. Like I almost was like had a like a visceral reaction, because I spend so much energy and time, encouraging people to try, and knowing that people sometimes feel embarrassed because the try uniforms aren't really flattering for people who are curvier or have as you know back packaging that's extra that may fill out in areas, or we don't always get the sports bras that can fit and hold our cups without spillage coming over the top. Like there's so many things that went through my mind in that moment. But I appreciate you, Shane, because you were like, I don't think like that anymore. And to me, that's redemption. And just, I was like, okay. When I calmed down and he was like, yeah, but I don't think like that anymore. I was like, well, you can come on the podcast then and let's have a conversation about it. Because I really do want to change or help to change. What does this imagery look like? What does an athlete look like? Because I don't even know what to say. I'm gonna let you go, Shane. This is about y'all anyway, not about
Well,
me and my
I want to say something real quick. So when he came with me to a 70.3 half for the first time, I said, look around you. Look around you at all these athletes. What do you see? Do you see people who are looking like Lionel Sanders or something? uh, no, they're all shapes and sizes. Sure, the pros look like that, but this sport is dominated by age groupers, and they are everyone. And so he was like, "Oh my god!" So he started looking around, and I just remember him just being like, "Oh, like the light bulbs are starting to go off."
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I had to be receptive. I had to be in a place where I could receive that message from the universe, right? I mean, where I could see the message. Yeah. And I think that translates. Um, I think what Melissa said is important, that this sport is dominated by the age groupers, which come in every shape, fashion, and form that we can and can't imagine. Um, since then, I've kind of dug into this a little bit. I just watched a YouTube video of a father that carried his cerebral palsy kid through many triathlons, marathons, Ironmans, um, just because of love. And so for me, that's where this comes from. If this feels good, or you think it might feel good eventually, because sometimes it doesn't feel good. Um, listen to your heart and be open, right? I mean, that was my lesson was, hey, maybe I can be a little more open today. And maybe this applies to other areas that we probably aren't going to talk about here, but your local leadership, your um, not so local leadership is and one of the things our buddy Robbie told me many times, like when I was getting frustrated with Melissa telling me how to be an athlete, Robbie asked me to remember where is it coming from, and it's coming from somebody who cares about you, and as a community of triathletes, we need to care about each other a little more, be encouraging.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think the guest, the father son duo was Johnny. They were on the podcast. They did Maryland. Uh,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it's amazing to watch people that, they're adversely challenged. They're like, if, I mean, if I was facing that kind of challenge, would I be able to muscle up and make it happen? And
mhm,
it and two, gives me a little deeper sense of gratitude that uh I have a choice,
mm, that's
you
it.
know.
Johnny and Jeff Agar.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
nice.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny and Jeff Agar. I was like, the name is coming, but you're right. We get to do this. And so my question to you, Shane, is have you entered or have done some of the long course races since your second reentry into sport in 2022?
Last year I did my first half Ironman, 70.3 in Chattanooga. Um it was awesome. It was fulfilling. It was very, very nice to get out and get that done. And then I did the swim at Maryland last year with the 70.3, and then I did the Wisconsin 70.3 also last year. I have not done a full Ironman yet. I just don't have the time for training for that right now.
Yeah, but that's okay. Well, shout out to your other experiences, but we know it's probably in your future if you keep hanging out and dating Melissa. She's gonna be like, you're gonna do one, okay?
Right. That's right. My Ironman finisher is going to motivate me to be an Ironman finisher someday, I'm
I
sure.
love it. Yes, yes, she will. Well, with that said, like, what do you love most now, Shane, being back in the sport and being immersed in it and doing running? And Melissa, to you, what keeps you trying nowadays?
I finally learned how to swim. I got a good swim coach. So the swim is no longer a burden. Definitely a challenge sometimes, but there's no, there's not that fear of, am I going to make it? Or are they going to have to fish me out of the water? That kind of thing. Um, what drives me? I love this community. So Melissa and I talk about this every now and then. The running community is different than the cycling community. The swimming community is different than any one of those three by themselves. Is it's a different culture. But there's something magic when you put all three together. It's like a higher quality of person or discipline or all the things that go into making that happen. It's I think triathletes are just better people.
Melissa's shaking her head. Like, why are you shaking your head, Melissa?
Uh, no comment.
Right. I was like, we're just gonna leave it at that. But go ahead, Melissa.
um, okay. This one's hard. I mean, this year has already been a tough year for me, like outside of the sport. And I have been really challenged, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Um, it's been a really rough year. So I have been thinking about this very question a lot lately because I have some races that I had already signed up for that I'm like, am I going to do this? I don't know. Like, and so right now I'm taking it like day by day at right now. I'm going out, but I think for me, it's all about growth mindset. And it's all about, in order to have that growth mindset, you just keep going. You just keep the discipline. I Every morning I like have to fight myself right now to make myself go to the pool, to make myself go to run practice, to make myself get out there and get on that bike. I'm definitely struggling this year more than I have with other years. Um, And because that's the way, I don't know. I mean, I think I just came out of the womb that way because, with my whole ballet history and everything. Um, if you just keep going, it's almost like the race itself, you know, you just keep buoy by buoy, just do one buoy at a time. I tell my girlfriend this all the time. I'm like, girl, buoy by buoy. And she's go, yeah, buoy by buoy. And so that's how I'm doing it right now. I'm just doing one buoy at a time, one buoy at a time. And hopefully I'll get to those races this year and I'll still be trained enough to do them, to get through them. My goal this year is not, I don't have high goals for myself this year in terms of like pace and speed and everything. I think it'll be just a major achievement if I get them done this year. So through that day to day, buoy by buoy mentality, just every day getting out there, that is kind of the growth that is part of the growth mindset of like, I want to see how I can keep progressing, keep evolving as a person and as an athlete. Because I think this sport, it not only evolves you as an athlete, it will evolve you as a person. Your insides can't help but be changed and transformed through this sport. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I keep doing it. And that's one of the reasons why I get my butt out of the bed in the morning and drink a bunch of coffee and get my butt to this pool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's the growth mindset, but really it does changes who you are on the inside by getting up there and
Yeah.
pushing past what may be comfortable or moving past the discomfort. Well, y'all, thank you so much. There's so many more things that we could really talk about, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. However, I don't let people leave without doing rapid fire. So we're just going to go through some quick rapid fire questions and then we'll be up and away. Favorite song?
That's tough. I don't know. Shane, do you have a favorite song?
I I like different music. Depends on what's going on.
Just
I
throw
use
something out
music
there.
to motivate or calm, calm or so.
We'll just do motivation right now.
Motivational song is probably like "We Are the Champions," the Queen song.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite leg of triathlon?
I'm gonna go with the bike.
Shane?
Uh, I like Transition 3.
Sorry.
That's where you know
Dinner.
you've earned it.
That was such a loud laugh. I'm sorry for your ears right now after fact. I'm so sorry about your ears. I love T3. That means we're done.
Right.
Means we're done.
Success.
Oh, that's good. That's the first time I've had T3. That's the first. I love it. Audiobook, podcast, music, or silence when you train.
There's so many books that I love. I'm gonna go with podcasts. I have to go with my coach's podcast, which is Boundless Body Radio. Good plug for my coach.
Okay. And Shane?
When I'm riding bike or running, usually I do silent just so I can hear what's going on around me. Kind of going back to that, like you were saying earlier with that girl laying in the street, some of that situational awareness.
Yeah.
Of course, swim, it's hard to get music. I do have some music. But yeah, if like I'm doing a bike indoors, I'll put a movie on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
At the end of the race, are you a beer, wine, water, or soda type of person?
I'm a water person for sure. I'm usually a bit dehydrated, so I definitely go for that. When they're handing you that bottle of water, I'm like, yes, please.
I'm in recovery. And so when I was 21, I found out the hard way that drinking was not for me. And so yeah, I'm a water person, and um, triathlon is my drug of choice now.
I love that. Congratulations. And triathlon is a very addictive behavior. um, Gels or real food for your triathlon nutrition?
I do a gel that's like a real food. I call it sophisticated baby food. Because it's literally mashed up rice and fruit.
Yeah,
Um,
bananas and stuff.
and it's like, they've got electrolytes in it and other fun things in it. And they put caffeine in some of them. And so, yeah, it's a gel that's like I said, it's like sophisticated baby food for
You didn't want to
athletes.
give them a shout out, Melissa, since
Oh,
you're giving shout outs now?
okay. We can give shout outs. It's My Spring Energy. And
Okay.
I got Shane on those as well. He likes the ones with the nut butters in them, and my my favorite is I think it's called Hill Aid with the caffeine in it. Although you can't take too many of those over an Ironman because the caffeine will
I've tried
start
my
to
spring
hit you.
before.
Hmm?
I said I've tried my spring before.
It's really good. I love it.
Racing in a big city or scenic countryside?
Oh, scenic countryside. I've raced in the big cities, and it's just to me, my favorite race is Lake Placid, and I love just going out and getting away from it all. And like that venue really allows you to do that. You're like tucked back in the woods, and it's wonderful, and it's just a beautiful course, and it's an epic race.
Mhm.
Highly recommend.
Shane?
Oh, country. Yeah, yeah. I like the quiet, like sometimes you see some wildlife, sometimes the other triathletes are the wildlife you gotta look out for. Um, so yeah, country.
Awesome. And I don't let people leave without asking, do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
I can't do it. I I don't know what it is. I think for two reasons. A, just ew. Um, I don't want to get my bike messed up. I don't know if that is even a thing or if I need to worry about that. But to me, I just think about that. I'm like, I don't want to mess up my beautiful bike.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, I just can't. Once my core muscles are engaged like that, I can't seem to like make it happen. I don't know. It just doesn't. Same thing with the swim. I can't seem to. Once I'm in core muscles are engaged and I'm swimming, it is like really tough. I don't know.
Understood. Shane, what about you?
The 2 minutes that it takes me to stop and go pee at a um, you know, portalet is worth it. I'm not going to break any records. I'm usually a middle of the pack kind of finishing guy, so 2 minutes is not going to make a difference one way or another.
Awesome. Well, thank you
And I
so
have been
much.
peed on
Oh,
before, so that is like not. That's
Yeah,
another
it's kind of
reason.
nasty if you're behind somebody that's going.
Mhm.
oh no, I'm so sorry you've been peed
Yeah,
on.
it was
I
not.
hope it wasn't by me though. Oh my gosh. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I
Oh,
was like, I thought this guy's water bottle had like burst or something, and I'm like, oh no, like that's not what that is. I was
that
like,
to
great.
be on the receiving end, I'm so sorry about that. So if for those of you who do pee on the bike, maybe try to make sure there's no one behind you. With that said, whenever you try beginners luck, you always win. We thank you so much for being on the podcast with us. Remember to leave a review, share it with your friends, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, shoot us up, hit us and slide in our DMs. My name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines. And for now, we are out. Peace. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.